tonight I want to go into an area that we've read through it two or three times already in our study because I wanted to take the woman with child part, Israel, and the coming about of being in labor to bring forth the Messiah part. I wanted to bring that separate because this study of what we'll have tonight is the antagonist, the one with whom we'll have to deal if we live in the last 42 months of this age. So as we come to the end of the day of salvation, we come to the time of the end. The time of the end actually will include 7 years altogether. Now, the things that approach the time of the end, the beginnings of birth pains and all of that, at some point, the birth pains, the water is broken, as someone has put a video out that I thought was good. The water is broken. The birth pains have now reached a point, the labor pains have reached a point that they become more intense and more timed sequence and getting closer and closer together, more and more intense as we go through that first 3.5 years. And so for the first 3.5 years, I believe that the three of the first great what are called beast, or in one, or the riders on the of the horsemen of the apocalypse, that those probably are in place by the beginning of the before the birth pains begin, and the time as the labor pains are increasing, and then there's the breaking of the first seal after Christ has been given the book with the seven seals. He opens the first, breaks the first seal. The rider on the white horse rides out. And even then, it's going to be really hard to know for certain what time it is, where we are in the process. And so at that point, it's going to be tough. I went back into yesterday or this morning, I can't remember which, but read some of the prophecies, like the founder of the Jehovah's Witnesses, and what he had to say about his certainty of when all of these things would be fulfilled. And so it was between time in 1800 and I think it was 1914, I think was the date that was date certain. As of this date, it would be Christ would have come, or that it would all be fulfilled. And so I read all of that and all of his reasoning, but he was absolutely sure about the date, that it was between these dates. And those dates, of course, have come and gone now by 100 years. There was others that I read that were the same way. Exactly, they knew exactly when it was going to be or by what date it was going to be. And even early in, I remember when I was beginning to study these things, and how Hal Lindsey had a book, 88 Reasons Why the Lord Will Come in 1988, I think it was, or something like that. And there were others that believed that, like every tribe by 85, I think it was, how that the Bible translators believed that they would have it all when they got the Bible translated into the last language, that then the Lord would come because the gospel would be preached into every tribe, every nation, every ethnic group at that point in their own language, and that would be it. And that was 85, I believe. And some of you may remember better than that, but there were several like that. And we want to be real careful about that. So as I've studied Bible prophecies and putting it together, trying to see all these things, I want to be sure that even though I'm open to and looking at every event that takes place and saying, does this fit? How does this fit? It's like looking at the puzzle pieces and turning them this way and that and finding, and you think, if I just put a little pressure on it, this piece would fit here. The problem with that is, if even if it looks like it fits, often it doesn't fit, and there's something is wrong. And sometimes you have to take out several pieces to make it come out right and to get it right. And so we need to not be dogmatic about these things. And nevertheless, though, there will come a time, there comes a time when the gospel of the kingdom has been preached into all the world for a witness, then the end will come. And that's the end time. That's the end time. That's the last 7 years of the day of salvation. So the time of the end, the last 7 years, the day of salvation, that begins with the breaking of the first seal, second seal, third seal, fourth seal, all the way down through the seven seals. And that actually leads us all the way in through the book of Revelation. Now, one of the things that is introduced in chapter 12 and verse 3 that we looked at, so we were looking at the signs from heaven, the woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet and the 12 and all of that. We went through that. We read these others just because of the context, to keep the context. Nevertheless, we need to zero down on this a little more, to really put the our crosshairs on this, to understand and go back and understand, because this is spoken of first of all by by Daniel the prophet. Let's say in chapter 7, we'll go back and look at that, and then it becomes a big part of everything that takes place. The last 42 months, this is the number one issue. This is the number one enemy, I guess you would say, that we are the basis for that will come forth. So the dragon that's cast out of heaven. And so the red dragon, his 7 heads, 10 horns, and all of that. Now, in Daniel chapter 7, it makes very clear to us what that is all about. It explains, he explains the vision. Gabriel explains the vision to Daniel. In Revelation chapter 17, the vision is explained. This is explained in chapter 17 to the Apostle John and the writer of the Revelation. And so we see these things, but this one comes forward at the abomination of desolation. There's an abomination that makes desolate. When that takes place, that's when this one seems to take its place. So it replaces, or I shouldn't say replaces, but in a sense it does. So the rider on the white horse, it has been, by that time, it has been taken down by warfare. So the rider on the red horse that follows it, that takes dominion from it, it has dominion. The rider on the white horse starts out to have dominion in chapter 6 of Revelation, starts out with dominion, but that's taken away from it by the rider on the red horse, who takes peace from the earth. And so there's a great time of conflagration as there is warfare, fire, really, and destruction of almost a third of everything on earth during this war. And now I will tell you now that I think these things will happen very rapidly. The first one is in place. The second one's in place. Third one's in place. The fourth one we haven't yet seen, because that apparently it's only at a certain point that the war in heaven breaks out. Michael the archangel stands up, and with his angels, with the 2/3 of the angels that have remained true to God, remained true to Christ, they will cast out the dragon and his angels. And with his tail, as we'll read in the next verse, he'll sweep a third of the stars, meaning a third of the angels, out of heaven. will be cast, and they will no longer be angels in the sense of being able to have the powers that they have, but they will have powers like a scorpion has power to sting. They will be like insects. They will be transformed in their form in the same way that the serpent, who was a beautiful creature in the garden, like a snake with arms and legs until the arms and legs were taken off, and he was made to crawl on his belly rather than even having that. So to not be able to stand, that great red dragon that is the symbol now actually of China, you can see there the picture of it at least, what it would look like, what it probably sounds like it would look like. And so he, though, appears at the 3.5 year mark when the abomination of desolation occurs, and this kingdom is set up, and it's a worldwide kingdom. It will be different from all the others, but it will have elements, the body, the elements of what was the rider on the white horse, what was the rider on the red horse, what was the rider on the black horse. Those all will come together. The lion with the eagle's wings, without the wings, they will have been plucked off. The bear with the ribs in his teeth that was going forth to eat. What's left of them? What's not burned up? What's not demolished of those? As well as the rider on the black horse, though, that kingdom that had had dominion for a very few months. I think it will only be for months, probably. It could be a year, but I don't think it will be, because at that point, when this war takes place, when the rider on the red horse goes forward, and the fight that takes place in Ezekiel 38 and Ezekiel 39, or in Zechariah chapter 12, when that war takes place, there's going to be such great destruction upon the earth that if the Lord did not shorten the days, no flesh would be left alive. So the world will be almost without government, except for the fact that this rider on the black horse will come forward to set up, and during a time of great famine. People are dying because of famine and pestilence and all of those things, because there's not going to be enough food to go around. You can imagine in America today, if the great cities were burned, and the means of generating electricity and communication and all of that was wiped out, you can imagine how many people would die. Like, let's say in America, if in America the electricity was shut off for a year, the 120 of the largest cities were burned down, burned completely, and the places where they were is uninhabitable because it's now radioactive. And what people are left is scattered in the places that they're scattered, that got out, and all of that. What are they going to eat? Will it be in winter? Will it be? Will it be? Will there be places where they can go, where they can find water that's not poisoned, or can find food? And so it's been estimated. Some have estimated anywhere from 75 to 95% of everyone in America would die within a year under those circumstances. And I can see why. There's so few people that would have any of the skills that would be necessary, or even the resources, even if they had the skills to do that. So you can imagine much of the country, the first world countries, would be almost obliterated. But now, after 3.5 years, after the beginning of that, from the time, approximate time of maybe a little before, a little after the beginning of the 7 years, when that war begins to take place, prepared, and then it takes place. From that time, there is going to be a great time of a third of humanity will die here, a third there, a third of this, a third of that, and all the green grass burned up, a third of the trees, a third of the ocean, a third of the rivers become poison, and all these sorts of things. All those things are going on so that so many people across the world will die, but the nations themselves will then begin to try to rebuild the people that are left in the various places. So the lion will be given um, a, a, a period of time that they will come forward and be part of this last government. So will the Russian and all of those that come out of the north. They also will come forth. The what remains of that, and the ones from the south, from whether it's from Africa or the Islamic nations, the Sunni Muslim nations to the south, all the way across Egypt. Not so much because I think it'll be destroyed completely, but the nations that are able that come together, they will all come together and be part of this. They will be part of this, as we'll read in a little while if I'll get on with it. But so then this government will have dominion for 3.5 years, 42 months, a time times and half a time. And the Antichrist will rise up to be the actual leader of that. He will not be one of the original 10, and yet he will end up being one of the. He'll have three of them under his dominion, or he will be dominant over three of them when he becomes one of the seven that are left. So he will be one of the seven, but he also will will bring under subjection three of the others, so that he will have four portions, let's say, of the 10. And the Antichrist, because of that, will be the power and will be really will be worshipped in that time. We'll see all of this now. I'm forecasting what we're going to be studying as we get into chapter 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and go on that way. This is what we're going to be studying. But right now, I want us to look at the great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his head the 7 diadems or 7 crowns, because that will be a big, important part of what will be going on, will be what will be played out in the time to come. And so to do that, first of all, though, I read what it says here: a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on its head were 7 diadems, and his tail swept away a third of the stars, meaning a third of the angels, from heaven and threw them to the earth. Okay, so I want us to look into that in more detail. Now, Gabriel gave the same prophecies to almost not exactly the same, but the gist of them to Daniel that was given to John. And so, in a very short amount of space, Daniel, in one chapter, summarized all of this from this point, all of this last part, all of this, all the way through to the actually past the reign of Christ on earth, and the great white throne judgment, and all of the setting up of the eternal kingdom. All of this in the 7th chapter of Daniel. And I'm going to want us to look at that in a little bit, because he gives us a good summary of what we'll be looking at in chapter 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and on, and all the way actually out to the end of the book. He gives us what will be a summary of it, but this will give us much more detail, as we like in this. Will just have mentioned here, and then he will, as we get into chapter 17, he will do a lot more talking and explaining about this and what the 7 heads are and the 10 horns are and all of that. So we're going to see all of that. But first of all, I wanted us to go to Daniel chapter 7, and we'll go through that. I'll try to go through it fairly quickly, because I would like for us to go back then to chapter 12 and go into chapter 13 and maybe see as much of chapter 13 as we can. So we'll look at that tonight. But first of all, to Daniel chapter 7. Now, Daniel chapter 7 will have a summary, and Daniel just gives a summary of it. So it's a summary of what Gabriel gave him, but is a summary that includes everything from really from chapter 6 at least, all the way through to the end of the book of Revelation, all in this chapter, and actually gives it twice in two different ways. One is the actual vision, and then the other is where he asked for, tell me about this fourth one. What about that? The one that's different than all the rest. And that's why we have so much detail on it that helps us. Well, I think will help us to understand it. I think it's important that we get this. This lays the foundation for what will be coming later. So it's important that we get this. And so you might want to mark this one as one that you might want to go back and look at again as time goes on, to try to at least know where it is and see the passages and what they have to say. Now, he begins in Daniel chapter 7, verse 1, the vision of the four beasts. Now, the four beasts here are the same as the writers of the writers of the apocalypse, the four writers that come forth in Revelation chapter 6. So, in the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel saw a dream and visions in his mind as he lay on his bed. Then he wrote the dream down and related the following summary of it. Daniel said, I was looking in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven were stirring up the great sea. Four winds of heaven mean in the four different directions, northeast, south, and west. They're stirring up the pot of the sea of humanity. So you see, whether it be from the east, you're seeing the Chinese and middle and Eastern influences, and from the west, you're seeing the things about democracy and the problems and the birth pains and the things that we're going through in the countries that are democracies. And then from the north, you see, and now we're talking about from Israel when I say these things. So from the north of Israel, due north of Israel, all the way up to the North Pole is Russia. And Russia stretches out, covers almost half of the globe as it goes around. The biggest country in Europe, biggest country in each of the areas of Eurasia and Asia. And so it's a very, very large country, not a great large population, but over the extreme north of Israel, so that the armies of the north are those who come with Russia, which will, as we read in Ezekiel 38, that includes Turkey and Iran and their armies as well, that are a part of under the domination of this one, who is the armies of the north. And so, and then from the south, the Sunni Muslim masses that are referred to as the rider on the black horse, and we'll see all that. Now, the four great beasts were coming up from the sea, different from one another. So, out of the sea of humanity comes these four beasts, and four governments or government systems that will be in each of those, northeast, south, and west. Each of them will have their own theology, their own philosophy, their own systems of government. And so they're different from each other. The first was like a lion and had the wings of the eagle. I kept looking until its wings were plucked. Now, here's where the reason I mentioned what I did about being careful about setting dates or times, because this would be one. In fact, someone I was just talking to within the last couple of weeks, and they made the remark, he's going forth going forth conquering and to conquer, giving a bow and a crown. And or is this the one said, is these are the arrows that he's shooting from the bow in his hand? And all of those are references to the rider on the white horse. I cannot tell you that the first seal has been broken. I don't know that. However, I see nothing to indicate that it doesn't fit. In other words, the lion, I've always told you that the lion with the wings of the eagle, the rider on the white horse, I believe would be the white people, basically the Anglo American governmental system. And that's mainly democracy or democratic, but it's a certain type of law that's based a lot on English common law, is really what it amounted to. And that is now in America, in Australia, and Canada, but especially in America and in the United Kingdom. Those, especially, all of those are, in a sense, the lion with the wings of the eagle. The wings of the eagle, I believe, are probably talking about the United States. And so, my interpretation, my thinking about that, if it were in our time, which it may or may not be, but if it is, then I could see how that the first seal has been broken, the rider on the white horse maybe haven't gone out, or maybe it's about to be broken, may not have been broken yet, maybe it hasn't gone out yet, but right now you see see how that, man, I've got to be kind of easy and careful of how I say it, but it just seems like that things are following the exact fulfillment of what you would expect for the rider on the white horse. And there's nothing to say that he will be the one who will become. We'll see how that comes about, how that he will become something else, or what will happen there. Well, we're not going to know. What we do know is this, that the eagle's wings will be plucked. And maybe it means plucked off, or maybe it means plucked in the sense that makes it to where the eagle cannot fly. The eagle has landed and will not be able to fly. In this passage, it says it that way. In the Revelation chapter 6, it says that the rider on the white horse goes forth, conquering and to conquer, given a bow and a crown, and all of that's going well until the rider on the red horse goes forth at the breaking of the second seal, and he will take peace from the earth, given a great weapon with which to take peace from the earth. And so then at that point, there's a sense in which he has domination, at least for that period of time, because he's taken peace from the earth. But because of that, as we read in Ezekiel 38 and 39, but especially chapter 38 and 38 and 39, we read about how that the seat of the Gog Magog, how that the seat where he comes from, the Magog, will be destroyed by fire, as will the coastlands, meaning large bodies of land surrounded by coasts, not islands, but coastlands, lands around a large body of land surrounded by ocean, almost surrounded, not an island, but almost surrounded by water, and that is their protection. And how that the fire will fall on the coastlands. And so fire will fall on the coastlands, fire will fall, and as then we see the sound of the trumpets, as we saw how that a third of this and a third of that, a third of the trees, all of the green grass, a third of the water, a third of everything destroyed. So the earth at this point has been injured with a severe injury, and such that the people that are left alive are dying of disease and dying of lack of water and dying of lack of food. And so the countries to the south, this will mainly take place in the northern hemisphere. So it will be the militaries in the northern hemisphere will fight each other, and those in the southern hemisphere will be left to a large degree. They will be where they will not be the third that is destroyed, and all of those sorts of things. And so they will be going about the effort of trying to save as many lives as they can. And so dominion will be given to the rider on the black horse, and there will be a time of famine, a quart of wheat for a denarius or a day's wage, 3 quarts of barley for a day's wage, and all of that. Well, that will be going on until the entire world then comes back together again, and the remnants of the lion and the bear and of the leopard all will come together, along with the rest of all of the rest of those. Uh, uh, the entire world will come together under one government. It will be a government led by 10 kings to start with, and then how that as the this one that was lacking power, that had seemed to be destroyed, will suddenly rise up in there and take over again, and will actually move to the top of that, and then will end up being the Antichrist. So we're going to see a lot more about that. But these are the very same ones that are listed in Revelation chapter 6. So the lion with the eagle's wings. I watched till the eagle's wings were plucked, and is lifted up from the ground, made to stand on 2 feet like a man, and a human mind. It actually says a human heart also was given to it. The idea that the thinking or the intelligence comes from the heart, and we today believe that it comes mainly from the mind, and so human brain or the human mind. And so he's given a human mind. He's given a mind of humanity, was given to this one that now is standing on his feet, even though not able to fly. Behold, a second beast, a second resembling a bear. It had raised up on one side, had 3 ribs were in its mouth between his teeth. And thus they said, Arise, devour much meat. After this I kept looking, and behold, another one like a leopard, which had on its backs 4 wings of a bird. The beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given it. So that's the one now after. So there's the war there after the rider on the white horse. Then there's the war, rider on the red horse. Now this one is the rider on the black horse, and it's a leopard, maybe a black leopard. I don't know about that, but he has 4 individual parts, individual wings, and also 4 heads, 4 commanders, and they are given dominion. So this is, I believe, to be the nations that were across the south that were not destroyed in the fallout or in any of the fire, any of the things because of all of that. After this, though, he said, I kept looking in the night vision. Now, here's where we get then into what we're studying for tonight. After this, I kept looking in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful, terrifying, extremely strong, and it had large iron teeth. Now, of all the things that have happened thus far, this one is the most terrifying, and it is the one we're looking at, the one that we began to look at as Satan has been cast to the earth. He will occupy this beast. He's a 4th beast on the earth, and now he is dreadful, terrifying, extremely strong, iron teeth. It devours and crushed and trampled down the remainder with his feet. And it was different from all the beasts that were before it. It had 10 horns. So now this 10 nation or 10 king governmental system will be in charge of the entire globe, the entire world, as each one has their area of responsibility, maybe over a continent or a portion of a continent, some maybe over more than one continent, and all of that goes on. But it is where the 10 horns come in. So at first, it has 10 horns, different from all the others, and it has devoured all of the nations, whether it be the United States, Russia, all of the nations are devoured by it, and trampled down, crushed, and brought then under subjection to it. It has dominion. While I was contemplating the horns, behold, another horn, a little one, came up among them, and 3 of the first horns were pulled out by the roots before it. Behold, this horn possessed the eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth uttering great boast. So this is the Antichrist. And as the Antichrist comes forward, he's going to be uttering great boast about how he, a lot of different things, but a big part of it has, when we get into Revelation, especially, we see more and more of this, how that he's suffered what should have been a deadly head wound that has now been healed, and he has escaped death, and now he has come to be in charge. And so as he comes forth, takes the place, apparently, maybe, of one of the 10 horns. And now 3 of the first ones were pulled out by the roots, brought under subjection, it says in another place. And behold, this horn possessed the eyes like the eyes of a man, a mouth uttering great boast. And even when it comes to the great white throne judgment, he will still be uttering great boast when before the Son of God, that is sitting on the throne for judgment. As he comes before him for judgment, he still will be uttering blasphemies and boast when that time comes. He cannot help himself but to boast about who he is and all of the different things. And so then he goes on to say, I kept looking until thrones were set up and the Ancient of Days took his seat. So talking about how God takes a seat, it goes all the way now. All of this passage will go all the way to the end of the book. And so even though it's as important as it is, I'm kind of going to skip through here a little bit, but thousands and thousands were attending him, myriads upon myriads, standing before him for judgment. And the court sat, the books were open. I saw a picture this morning. It's interesting on my devotional page that it was a picture of angels, as Michelangelo had painted this picture on some chapel, but it was the angel, and the angel is before men, and he's opening the book and holding the book out like this, so you can see what was written in the book, what was under your name, you might say. The books were open, and the book will judge us. What was written in the book? What were you thinking? What did you do? What was your motivation? What were you trying to do? All of those sorts of things. And so the court sat, books were open. And so now here, as the court is in session, and it's the court of the great, called the Great Assize, the great day of judgment. It says that we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ. I could show you that verse. I'm going to keep going. But we all are going to appear before the judgment seat of Christ. And so Daniel is listening and seeing these things are happening. And he said, I kept looking because of the sound of the boastful words which the horn was speaking. And so this little horn that's now become in charge during those last 3.5 years, the one who believes that he is God, or at least he boasts about being as powerful as God and replacing God and all these things, filled with the devil, he is still boasting about what great things he has done. And he's blowing his own horn and sounding it out. The horn was speaking, and he is boasting about everything and blasphemies against God and all of that. And Daniel said, I kept looking until the beast was slain, and his body was destroyed and given to the burning fire. So the Antichrist and the false prophet will be killed, and they're thrown into the lake of fire at the time of the judgment. As all of that begins, they will be thrown into there. Now Satan will be bound for 1,000 years until till God himself will set in judgment. This is where Christ judges. He calls the nations before him to separate the sheep from the goat, those that are there. And so these will die. The beast and the false prophet will die at the end of the 42 months. That's as much time as they have. Satan will be given another opportunity 1,000 years later, and will blow that one as well. They said, I kept looking because of that. His body was destroyed, meaning that the the kingdom it had built, the empire that it had built, will be destroyed. It will be destroyed. 500,000, no, oh, 200 million, I should say, 200 million people will die in that destruction when that takes place. 200 million is like two-thirds of the population, more than two-thirds of the population of the United States, or thereabouts, pretty close to two-thirds. And so you can just imagine how many that these armies that they will gather together when Christ comes to try to keep him from being able to set up his kingdom. And he will tread them down and they will die. The blood will flow up to the horse's bridle for 200 miles when that time comes. But the beast will be killed and his body was destroyed and given to the burning fire. And so the beast is slain, and the false prophet as well. We'll see that in Revelation. As for the rest of the beasts, their dominion was taken away. So the rider on the white horse, the lion with the eagle's wings, the bear with the ribs and its teeth, the leopard, all of those their dominion will be taken away, but they will be granted an extension of life. In other words, they will not be burned away to destroyed to the point they don't exist. They will be granted an extension. And during the millennial reign, as the saints of God that have come back with him and now in their glorified bodies reign over those who were left on the earth and bring about as Christ rules with a rod of iron, they will rule with him on thrones. And so for that 1,000 years, they will rule. And so in all those nations, there will be people that will live under their own vines and with olive trees and the fruit trees and all of the various things during that 1,000 years of peace, as Satan and his angels have no ability to tempt them anymore. And so during that period of time, they're granted an extension of life for an appointed period of time. The appointed period of time is 1,000 years. And then the Son of Man comes and is presented before the Ancient of Days. And so I'm not going to read the rest of that at this point. We are going to read that, and it is the more important part. I understand that, but because this is what we're concentrating on, I wanted to continue with this. And so we only have a few more minutes. As for me, Daniel, my spirit was distressed within me, and the visions in my mind kept alarming me. I approached one of those who were standing by and began asking him the exact meaning of all this. So he told me and made known to me the interpretation of these things. The great beast, which are four in number, are four kings who will arise from the earth. But the saints of the highest one will receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever and all ages to come. And we'll look at that when we get into that chapter in Revelation. We'll look more into that as the same way we're going here. Then I desired to know the exact meaning of the fourth beast. Now, that's the one we're really emphasizing, looking at tonight, the fourth beast. The exact meaning of the fourth beast, or as it would be the rider on the green horse, pale green horse in Revelation, but the red dragon and all of that, which was different from all the others, exceeding dreadful, with his teeth of iron and claws of bronze, and which devoured, crushed, and trampled down the remainder with his feet. And the meaning of the 10 horns that were on his head, and the other horn which came up, before which of them fell, namely, that horn which had eyes and mouth, uttering great boast, which was larger in appearance than his associates. So first he seems small, and then he rises up. And I don't think it's wise to try to separate the Antichrist from the kingdom that he rules. I think those two need to go together. And so that's why I'm going ahead and bringing this part out. But we're going to see a lot more about that in the next chapter when we get back into Revelation. And then he said in verse 21, and Daniel 7:21, I kept looking, and that horn was waging war with the saints and overpowering them. So you remember when you get down to the end of chapter 12 of Revelation, this is what it talks about, that when he's not able to destroy the woman, that God has put her in a place where he can watch over her and protect her, so that what's left of her people will be left alive. 2/3 of them will die, but a third of them will be left alive, and God will watch over them, protecting them as they have turned to Christ. And then when he can't get to them, he goes after them, tries to go after them. When he can't go after them, he goes after the rest of her children who keep the commandments of God and obey and the testimony of Jesus Christ. And so that is what this is also talking about. Exactly that last verse of chapter 12 of Revelation and this are saying the same thing. That horn was waging war with the saints and overpowering them. So for a period of time, 42 months, he will, as we'll see in chapter 13 of Revelation, he will have power over the saints. And so they will, he's not going to be able to wipe them all out, but they will, in the same way that the apostles and prophets of days gone by suffered and died and lived to declare the glory of God as long as they could, and then they died, still trusting and believing in Him. He will wage war with the saints and will overpower them, and so He will see the things that He does to them. Until the Ancient of Days came and judgment was passed in favor of the saints of the Highest One, and the time arrived when the saints took possession of the kingdom during that 1,000 years that will be. Thus he said, this fourth beast will be a fourth kingdom on the earth. So there's been the rider on the white horse, the red horse, the black horse, and now this is the same. This is the last one. It's not Daniel. He doesn't give him the sense of beast like with the others having a lion with eagle's wings or a bear with or the leopard. This one, he just calls him a fourth beast, but he's different from all the others, and he doesn't liken him to any, even though in Revelation it does liken him to a dragon. He is called the dragon. He is actually the dragon fleshed out in a kingdom, you might say. The fourth beast will be a fourth kingdom on the earth, which will be different from all the other kingdoms. And will devour the whole earth and tread it down and crush it. Now, the other kingdoms, they took dominion, but they never had all of the earth under their governance. That just didn't happen to any of the others, but this one will. It'll devour the earth, tread it down, crush it. As for the 10 horns, out of this kingdom 10 kings will arise, and another will arise after them. So maybe the Americas, let's say, or maybe it's just be Canada, the United States, and Mexico. Maybe that will be one region of this 10, and maybe everything south of Mexico, all the way down to whatever, Argentina, I guess, or whatever, down to the South Pole. All of that may be another. I don't know how all of that will be, and different ones, but the 10 kings will be over them, and then this one will take 3 of them that he will subdue. Notice it says he will subdue 3 kings. Will subdue means he doesn't destroy them, he just brings them under his control. So now he is in control of not only his portion, but of theirs as well. He subdues those 3 kings, but they will not rule. He will rule over their areas as well, although he will rule through them. He will speak out against the Most High and wear down the saints of the Highest One. So in this 42 months, as it'll tell us in Revelation chapter 13, he will speak out against the Most High and wear down the saints of the Highest One. He will work to wear them down. He will intend to make alterations in times and in law, and they will be given into his hand for a time, times, and half a time. He will be trying to change everything around, but the reality is 3.5 years is how long that he has. 42 months, 1,260 days. That's how much time that he has. It's the same as it uses in Revelation, and now in this one. passage as well. The court will set for judgment, and his dominion will be taken away, annihilated, and destroyed forever. Then the sovereignty, the dominion, the greatness of all the kingdoms under the whole earth will be given to the people of the saints of the highest one. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and all the dominions will serve and honor him. So that's the way that I especially wanted us to get that description of what it had to say. Anyway, about that, how did it say it? Uh, the great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his head 10 diadems. And so we read through this all last week. We read through it a couple of times, and then how that the war will be against Christians in this last part. We're going to get into all of that. Then we'll go into a lot more detail. Didn't get it quite as far as I wanted to, but yet this is a good place to stop. And so I'll go back and I'll decide where to pick this up for the next time, and we'll go on into chapter 13 then for the next time. All right. I will, I think I better quit sharing at this point. Whoops. There we go. All right. You're welcome to turn on your cameras, your mics, and all. And any questions or comments? Anybody have anything that question or anything that you'd like to ask? We all good? And Pastor Charlotte said that she's been going back to the YouTube videos and watching maybe more than once, because sometimes, you know, there's something you can look it up, you stop it, pause it, you can look it up, you can do it on your phone, you can do it on your computer, that you can look it up and say, okay, that's what that is, and get more detail for yourself and to use it. So you watch it as many times as you'd like. You're welcome to do that. That's what they're there for. And Lord's saying the same. We'll put this on tomorrow. All right, we all good? Ready to pray? Let's go ahead and pray then. Father, we're grateful for the many blessings you brought upon us. We're thankful. And we do ask, dear Lord, that you will be exalted, magnified, and glorified. Many things about the days to come we don't understand, but we see that you've given us the basics, so that when the time comes, we should be able to recognize these events and know what is going on, and that should give us the confidence to know that if you saw the beginning of these things, that you saw it all the way through to the end, and that you know how things will come about. You know the prayer requests that were made earlier. We pray that you'd meet those needs. Be with Pastor Charlotte, Brother Greg, especially in these times, dear Lord. Brother Greg is there finding things that are going on that he has special needs. And then next week, as Pastor Charlotte is going through her second cataract surgery, I pray that you'll be with her and bring about a good and complete touch and healing. Be with the doctors and all of that. Now would you lead, guide, and direct us, bring us back together again soon, we pray, and for all that you're doing, all that you are, we give you praise now in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Well, God bless you, and we will say good night.